We kind of had this talk off the air, but we were talking about how some people just equate ministry to being a pastor, to being on stage, to being in front of people, or just serving in the four walls. But you said something that was really crucial, I thought, that I believe plays a part in being able to be repositioned by God. And you had said something about how ministry starts
at home.
Can you share a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I guess I really believe that, ministry starts at home with how we raise our children. I think it's so easy to, and I remember doing this till, our daughter was probably 3, just kind of like hoping for the best, send her to school and she'll learn what she needs to learn. And then really learning how to like disciple your children and help to, I don't want to use the word groom, but, like help them to grow in their own calling and right. I don't remember where I was going. Oh, and then, just in your home, I think approaching your home like you are the president or CEO of your home. So how would you operate, behind the scenes? Because I believe God honors that in your next season of life too. So in how you, take care of your home, how you, raise up and disciple your children.
How you treat your spouse.
How you treat your spouse, definitely. Just focusing on, like I am the president. You can be the CEO of our of our home. So, yeah.
Everybody knows that you're actually upper management. And so when people ask me to do things, like Matt will ask me, like, "Hey, you want to get together?" I was like, "I got to talk to the manager, and then I'll let you know." So I think I'm the CEO in name only. No. Everything's got to go through you for being vetted, which I'm good with. So my question to you on that, because I think, and Matt, feel free to jump in on this, but I think this is overlooked a lot. People want so badly to make a difference that they immediately equate to making a difference to being on a platform, having a podcast, impacting thousands of hundreds of thousands of people, which is great. But how can you think to do that while also overlooking the people who depend on you most at home? And, I know pastors have talked about this a lot, and it's clearly explained in the Bible about having your house in order to be deemed a qualified leader who can serve others. But I see this very often where people will just drop their kids off at Sunday school, or they just drop their kids off at a Christian school, just assuming that, oh, well, they should get it, right? They'll be on the good path. But then when it comes to being at home, there is no, like you said, there is no discipling of your children. Mm-hmm. There is no ministering to your spouse. And that part, to me, is the most important because, ministry, the first ministry, I believe, is in your home. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to take care of the people spiritually, emotionally, and yes, physically, men. There is the part where you bring home the bacon, right? Or maybe you're the career woman and you're bringing home, the funding and helping for your children. But we forget so often about the spiritual aspect of raising our children to become purpose-driven people who can hear from the Lord and who know how to walk in authority. And I think what you just said is just so crucial. And I think it's easy to overlook because maybe you're not on stage, right, that often. No. More now. A little bit more. Okay, tiny bit more. But what you do that's not necessarily seen by a lot of people, to me, is more important than what I can do at times. Because if the home isn't being taken care of, then how am I able to do anything that is, in front of the crowd? And that's not to say I don't do anything at home when I'm at home, but
you do a lot.
What I'm saying is ministry isn't just in the four walls.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Matt, but even when you're with your business, can you share too? Because you were talking about your business also being a ministry, because you called it a lot of people would call it your niche. You can call it your purpose, but you called it what is your avatar? Is that what it was?
Oh, yeah.
Not the movie.
No.
But But basically, can you explain what avatars are?
Oh, just who you're called to serve, I guess, and who you're pouring into in your business. Basically for your avatar. I think one thing that you guys have said too is breakthrough is in the mundane. So those things that you're doing every day that maybe aren't the things that are seen are where breakthrough really happens. So that's.
And I think that's good because we don't want to pigeonhole God into how he moves and how he ministers and how he uses you. And so rather than having all these people try to run inside the four walls, I believe it's the opposite. God is having you come in, get filled up like it's a gas station, and then once you're full of his spirit and his presence and overflowing, you get sent right back out into the actual purpose that you're supposed to operate in. Now, are there people that are called to operate as apostles, pastors, teachers, evangelists? Absolutely. That's you got to have the church, right? But the church is also the body, and the body has arms, legs, feet that extend well outside the four walls. So you might be a stay-at-home parent. You might be an entrepreneur. You might be someone who just works out in corporate America, but that does not mean that your position, what you're doing in this season, carries any less weight than somebody that you might see that has 1 million followers and they're preaching the gospel. If we all do our part according to what God has called us to do, then it all works for his glory and for his benefit.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. I think it first starts in your personal life and what you're doing to take care of the necessities. And first, your relationship with God. Your first ministry is really your relationship that you have with God, but also who you are as a person.
That's good.
You got to be able to make sure you're ministering to yourself and allowing God to minister to you. And then obviously your family comes right after that, and your home life. We say it all the time. You can't, you watched maybe those like television shows growing up, right? Where like one of the spouses was always gone working. Oh, well, your dad's at work. All right. So he can't come to your game or this, that, and the other. Yeah. And it's like, I think we forget the element of that's the first ministry. And if you lose that, then like you're too focused on something that's not truly important at the end of the day, because your first ministry is your family and all of that.
Yes.
And then God will put you in positions to then have ministry after that. That is the trickle down, whether that's your workplace, a church, outside the four walls of a church, whatever it is that you come across on your journey or your path in life. And so I think that's the longing message here is, God is going to reposition you in life. There's going to be different seasons, some doors that open, some doors that close, and vice versa. Relationships, people. My dad talks about it all the time about points of reference, where there's some things that are meant for one season of your life that are not meant for the future. Or what this may seem as, hey, this seems just temporary, or is this like God teasing me or something? It's a point of reference setting you up for the future of what God has for you.
Good.
You know what I mean? But you got to learn from these experiences in order to be able to understand the real blessing that's coming in. And so sometimes we have to face those challenges. We have to face those things. And some things, I'm going to be honest, some career paths, some relationships have expiration dates. And that's the way life goes.
So true.
And I think people need to understand that. It's all in the process of finding who you are as a person, finding your identity and your purpose. And honestly, that's the first ever Game Changers we ever did, was really talking about, other than, going into, we kind of mixed the BLM thing with identity and purpose, and really just talked about it all together.
Yeah.
Saying there's a lot of people who are out there protesting stuff that they're not fully educated on, and you can see clearly through it.
Correct.
These are people that are struggling with identity and purpose. If you knew who you are in Christ, you wouldn't be acting a fool.
Right.
Well,
and you'll understand and know what the real thing is that God has called you to do, and you won't be led to believe the counterfeit or to be bought in. I know we're kind of...